Good evening, everyone. At this time, I'd like to call this City Commission meeting to order. And I can't see what time it is. On November the 17th, 2021 at 5:39 p.m. Workshop. City Commission workshop. Okay. We don't have an agenda. Yes, we do. Agenda items. No agenda itself. We just have one item. Go ahead.
If you want to do that.
The impact fee.
Yeah.
Well, let's call the order and do the roll call, please. Here.
Here.
Here. Here.
Okay, with that, let's do a pledge of allegiance, please, after a moment of silence. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Thank you for the roll call. Okay. Can we have a motion for the agenda, please?
I move we approve the agenda,
The workshop.
workshop.
Okay.
Second.
All right. It's been properly moved and seconded that the workshop for commission tonight be approved. All those in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. All right, agenda has been approved. We don't have a consent agenda on this. So, okay, let's go ahead with item number 1.
Okay, so the only item on for the workshop is the impact fee ordinance, and this is a workshop for the impact fees. It's required by state statute that we hold 2 workshops. So this is one of them. At the next meeting, the 29th, we'll have one at 5:30, and then the item for the ordinance will be on the following agenda. So there's a 90-day waiting period, and we had first reading a little under 90 days, but by the 29th, then we will have met the 90-day mark. So I will go over, y'all have seen this presentation, but it's like 6 slides, so I'll just go over it with you really quickly to remind you what these impact fees are all about, the study that was had, and how we came to the numbers we did. So impact fees are one-time fees assessed on new residential and commercial development to pay for the costs associated with new growth. We hired Duncan and Associates to perform the study. It was a technical report that determined what the impact fees should be, and they were based on a number of factors. The level of service we currently have in the community, based on our population, what our anticipated population is going to be in future years, as well as what projects it will take to maintain current service levels. The fees that we were looking at are roadway, which is transportation, parks, and then a third fee for general government, which encompasses police, fire, and city facilities. And so we'll move on to the next. So the results of the study are basically this table. The report is much longer and shows you how we got there, but this table is the results of the study. So basically, for transportation, single family would be assessed $1,687, parks $1,238, and general government $2,064 for a total of $4,989 per house. Multifamily, adding those up, it would be $3,130 per house. Retail, commercial, they do not all the commercial does not have a parks fee because there aren't people residing in there that would use parks, they're businesses. So mainly the impact that they have is transportational and general government services. So retail commercial, $4,502 per 1,000 square feet. So if you have 2,000 square feet, it would be double that amount. And they're all per 1,000 square feet. So you take the 1,000 square feet times this number, and that's what you get. Office, 3,242, industrial, 1,448, warehouse, 549, and public institutional, $1,498 per 1,000 square feet. So basically, the reason retail is more is because they have a larger impact because there's more people that frequent retail stores than offices and more road trips and that sort of thing. And that's why those fees are higher for those uses. The ordinance stipulates a lot of things about the impact fees. So how they must be collected, how they must be used, and a variety of other things, and what they can be spent on. So for each impact fee, you have to have separate accounts. Typically for each account, so say Bridlewood, you collect impact fees on that subdivision. So there would be an account for Bridlewood impact fees because it's used on to pay for the impact of that development. So, or as the system as a whole. So basically, the fees have to be spent by a certain time period, or they can request them back. So that's why we want to keep very close accounting of them to make sure we use them by that time period on the appropriate things and to make sure that we document what those things are that we're using it on. So, so that's one of the stipulations in the ordinance. Any dispersal of impact fee funds require city commission approval. So any project that we're looking at doing, we have to get approved by y'all, just as we do now with the water and sewer. Get more specifics of what we can use a different fee for. Transportation, we can use it for administering, planning, acquisition, expansion, and development of non-site related improvements to the arterial and collector road system of the city needed to serve new land uses. So the impact fee, I'm just using Bridlewood again, cannot be used for things inside the development. It has to be used for off-site improvements. Parks can be used for on-site improvements that impact the system as a whole. So it couldn't be used for impact fees for a park that only the residents are going to use and not people in the whole city, but it can be used internal to the site. So it's allowed for administering, planning, acquisition, expansion, and development of additional land, amenities, and facilities for parks and recreation purposes. So basically, if you're at increasing capacity, then you can use the impact fees for increased capacity. Typically, if you have, like say you increase capacity and you need to buy a really expensive mower, you can buy that. If you have a new park, you can use it for the new mower, but when that mower needs to be replaced, you can't use it for the replacement mower. So just for the costs associated with the increased capacity, because then the replacement mowers not increased capacity. That's a park that's already been added to the system. General government, administering, planning, acquisition, expansion, development of additional land, facilities, vehicles, and equipment for general government facilities. So you could use it on the police fire station that might go out there. So you could use it on that. You could use it on new vehicles that have a life expectancy beyond 5 years. So it's pretty wide what you can use it for. Again, the main rule of thumb is it needs to be associated with new development, increased capacity. So again, funds cannot be used for maintenance, rehab, repair, replacement of existing facilities or for the acquisition of vehicles or equipment with a useful life of less than 5 years, provided that the minimum useful life does not apply to public safety vehicles. Okay, so there's other caveats in here for the use of impact fees. Oftentimes, cities will enter into credit agreements on the impact fees, and they're normally a $1 match. So we'll say you have a project that needs to be done, and you want it done sooner before all the impact fees are collected. So oftentimes, you might enter into an agreement with the developer, so they can go ahead And there's some cost savings associated when they're developing the subdivision to go ahead and do off-site improvements because they've already, bid it out and they don't have to go through all the processes government does. So sometimes it actually makes it cheaper. Sometimes our processes make it cheaper. Sometimes us not having to go through the process can make it cheaper on their end to do the same project. So they will front and pay the city the fees ahead of time and do the project. And then what we will do is enter into an agreement. So as each home comes in, since we've already collected the fees to pay for the project, each home doesn't have to pay because they've already paid, if that makes sense. So, and those agreements would come before you with what the project is for y'all to consider and if you want to enter into it. If you don't, then you don't have to. You just go ahead and collect it, as each home is built and then use them for what we want later down the line. But sometimes it is advantageous to go ahead and do some off-site projects ahead of time. There's also sometimes development will come in that doesn't fall under one of the categories, such as the commercial categories listed, the single-family or multifamily. I think I gave the example of the possible lagoon project that was looking at coming to High Springs at one time. Really doesn't fall in any of those categories. So when that happens, then there's something in the ordinance that allows the developer to give the city money and put in an escrow account. We'll hire a third party to determine what the fees would be. And then, that would have to be approved by y'all, agreed to by the developer and approved to by y'all. So, so if there's a disagreement with the impact fee calculation, there's a way that it can come back before y'all for y'all to make those decisions. So next slide. And then there's appeal process. If anyone doesn't agree with what the staff comes up as far as the impact fees, they can appeal staff's decision to the city commission for a final decision. And that pretty much in a nutshell is what is in the impact fee ordinance. At the next meeting, staff is going to recommend that you adopt the highest impact fee level of impact fees, which for a house is $4,989 per house, and the maximum amount for commercial is $4,502 per 1,000 square feet. Currently, as you know, our water impact fee is $250, which is substantially lower than all the other cities. And this $5,000 amount still makes our combined impact fees lower than every other city. So when we bring the water and sewer impact fees before you, then we will bring a survey of all the other cities' water and sewer impact fees and other impact fees. And then if you want to, our recommendation is if you want to address any of these fees down, at that time is the time to do it. When you look at all of them as a whole with the new impact fees with water and sewer. But we're recommending the maximum right now because it still puts all of the impact fees someone pays per house in High Springs lower than the surrounding cities. And you can decrease whatever you want year to year for impact fees, but if you start low, then you can only increase a certain percentage every year. So we're recommending at the next meeting, we will be recommending the maximum number for transportation, parks, and general government. And that's pretty much all I have.
Thank you. Yes.
Didn't we go ahead and approve an increase in water and sewer impact fees?
No, we're still starting. So Catherine Van Zant, Catherine Van Zant, she's coming forward tonight with the water and wastewater facility plan, and she has her recommended amount. And so we're approving that plan and then starting the process like we did for this. And I've consulted the attorneys on what the process is, if we have to do the 90 days or not, because there's something in state statute that we might not have to wait the 90 days. So I've consulted with them, and I'm supposed to be talking to Danielle if we have to have the 90-day waiting period. But then we will make sure that we follow all the right processes to get them adopted the right way.
Okay, so that was an informational meeting we had when that came before us about what they were looking at doing?
Yes.
I got it. Thank you.
Anything else, commissioners?
I have a question. This is just evidence of my ignorance for this kind of stuff. Why is it that the residential structures aren't per 1,000 square feet? And it's just a dwelling? Is that just the way it's normally done?
It's just normally done like that, and there's normally, like, every community's different, but it's normally 2.7 to 3.2 people per home, regardless of size, pretty much. Bigger homes don't necessarily always dictate more people.
Okay.
That it?
One other question. So one of the caveats about using the funds for things, for general government that had a life of more than 5 years, except for public safety.
Yeah.
So we could, like, buy police cars, for instance, with
Yeah.
the funds.
Public, yeah, I'm sorry,
Okay,
public
but we
is
couldn't buy
exempt.
trucks for the utility department that didn't already exist.
Well, okay, so you could, that's something I would like to have, talk to lawyers about, but generally, I've never seen it done.
Okay.
And if the rule of thumb is if its life expectancy is under 5 years, then no. If it's over 5 years, you can. So if you get into grain areas, it's gonna last more than 5 years. So if it's something that, like a fire truck will last more than 5 years, so it kind of depends on the piece of equipment for public works.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Well, are you ask any audience comments?
And just to let you know, all cities do impact fees differently, so for sometimes for commercial, also, like, they'll even break it down further, like on roadway, a medical facility might have different impact fees than, like, a restaurant or something, or a gas station, but for simplicity, we just kept it at 1,000 square feet to make it easier, because what ends up happening is the developer will come back and say, oh, no, it doesn't fall under this, it falls under that, and it ends up this big gray area, and it gets very confusing, and then it kind of can open you up to lawsuits and stuff, so it's easier just to keep it clean.
And I'm assuming that there's no way for us to parlay impact fees to the power plant that's coming?
Not really, because they already came and were started construction prior to
Yeah.
these being adopted.
Yeah.
I wish we could. They probably, it wouldn't be too crazy, possibly, just because there's not a lot of trips, and it wouldn't have people, so that's no parks. There's not a tons of trips, so that wouldn't be super high in road. So we definitely get some money, but it wouldn't be a big landfall. Yeah.
Any other comments, questions? Okay. So you want a motion from us?
Is a motion required? No.
Nothing?
Yeah, just so, like, I basically, if anyone wants to talk about it, or anyone has anything from the audience, or,
I asked for audience comments.
yeah.
Nobody got up, so that's nothing else to do. That's it? Nothing else? All right. Motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn. All right. Meeting adjourned. Charlotte do it.
Good evening. At this time, I'll call this High Springs City Commission meeting to order, November 17th at 6:30. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Williams,
Here.
Vice Mayor James.
Here.
Commissioner Ambrose.
Here.
Commissioner Jones.
Here.
Commissioner White.
Here.
All right, thank you, ma'am. At this time, we have the invocation, and following that, we have the Pledge of Allegiance. Most gracious God, as we come now to discuss the business of this city, God, just lead us and guide us. Bless us with wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And God, we just pray, God, you just be with us throughout the rest of this new year that we're about to start this night, God. So again, we say thank you for thy grace and thy mercy. In your sweet holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
At this time, I entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, at this time, approval for the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion that the consent agenda be approved.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
I'll second it.
All right, got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any questions? All right, moving along to unfinished business. Discuss and consider the act of ordinance 2022-08.
Mr. Mayor, I'll read this by title only. This is an ordinance of the City of High Springs, Florida, providing for the vacating of a portion of the public right-of-way, being a portion of Northwest Fifth Avenue, also known as 189th Avenue, as recorded in Section 34, Township 7 South, Range 17 East of Alachua County, Florida, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2022-08 upon its reading by title only.
All right, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Commissioners, what's your pleasure? Any discussion?
I move we approve ordinance 2022-08, closing of the portion of 189th, but we're still going to retain ownership for retention, correct? Okay, thank you.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Anyone from the audience? Seeing that, Madam Clerk?
Mayor Williams,
Yes.
Vice Mayor James.
Yes.
Commissioner Ambrose.
Yes.
Commissioner Jones.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. All right, item number 2, discuss.
Yes,
Go
sir.
ahead.
Mr. Mayor, this is ordinance number 2022-12, an ordinance of the City of High Springs, Florida, providing for the vacating and banning of a certain platted undeveloped road, public road right-of-way in Underwood Hill Forest between Lot 12 and Lot 13 within the city limits of the City of High Springs, Florida, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing an effective date. Appropriate motion is pass ordinance number 2022-12 upon its reading by title only.
All right, any discussion?
If no discussion, I will make a motion that ordinance 2022-12 be approved.
Second?
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Anyone from the audience? Hearing none, Madam Clerk?
Vice Mayor James.
Yes.
Commissioner Ambrose.
Yes.
Commissioner Jones.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. Okay, motion carries. Item number 3.
Mr. Mayor, this is ordinance number 2022-21, an ordinance of the City of High Springs, Florida, providing for the vacating of a portion of the public road right-of-way, being a portion of Northwest 2nd Street, also known as Northwest 238th Street, as recorded in Section 34, Township 7 South, Range 17 East of Alachua County, Florida, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2022-21 upon its reading by title only.
Thank you, sir. Any discussion? Okay,
I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance number 2022-21 as read.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Now discussion. Anyone from the audience? All right, and none. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Ambrose?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Mayor Williams?
Yes.
Vice Mayor James?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. All righty.
Mayor, I would like to present you with a plaque in recognition of your outstanding leadership and service as mayor of the city of High Springs for the year 2021 to 2022.
All right, thank you. Well, let's see, let me do this. Thank you so much. Before we adjourn, at this time, Commissioner Jones, will you please stand? City of High Springs, Florida, present to A. Linda Jones with our most sincere appreciation for your 6 years of service as mayor, vice mayor, and commissioner of the City of High Springs from the year 2016 to 2022. Thank you so much.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, ma'am. At this time, I'll adjourn this meeting for the 2020-22 City Commissions. Comments?
I've enjoyed it. It's been a great 6 years. I'll miss it, but I'll leave it in good hands. Thank you.
All right, thank you again for your service. Come on, give. Yes. Okay.
Tristan Grunder, do solemnly swear or affirm
I, Tristan Grunder, do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support, honor, protect, and defend
that I will support, honor, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States and of the state of Florida,
the Constitution and government of the United States and of the state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified to hold office under the Constitution of the state and under the charter of the city of High Springs,
that I am duly qualified to hold office under the Constitution of the state and under the charter of the city of High Springs,
and that I will well and faithfully perform the duties of the office of city commissioner
and that I will well and faithfully perform the duties of the office of city commissioner,
on which I am now about to enter, so help me God.
on which I am now about to enter, so help me God. Thank you so much. Both of them? Okay. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. It's on you.
I would like to now call to order the 2022 to 2023 City Commission.
Here.
Here.
Here?
Here?
Here.
I would like to request nominations for the elect mayor and elect the mayor.
I make a motion that we select Ms. Gloria James.
Second?
On you, baby. Don't need a vote?
Oh, all in favor? Okay. I don't usually do this.
On that, okay,
Okay.
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 Okay,
The gap is yours.
it's mine now? Oh, okay. Thank you. All right. At this time, I would accept nominations for vice mayor-elect.
I would like to nominate Commissioner Ross Ambrose.
Second.
Okay? Nope.
Okay. So we want to play musical chairs now, or we gonna wait?
Gonna play music and chair.
I'm gonna miss you.
I don't know, hers is more.
Come on, Ross. Oh, boy, my knees.
We're like chair buddies now.
How you doing? We're close now, neighbors.
Okay.
Switch. I messed up.
Okay. All right, are we all ready now?
Yes, ma'am.
Everything looks different.
It looks a little bit different, doesn't it? Okay, at this time, are you ready? I'm sorry, I wouldn't dare do that. I am so sorry.
Can't do that. His father's an attorney.
Yeah, tell me, you mind?
It's funny being sworn in. I immediately thought the easy part was probably behind me. So that's an ominous feeling, but yet I understand the burden that this is going to be and the responsibility that is now squarely on my shoulders. And I am humbled and honored that the city thought that I was a good choice to help bring this city and push it forward and to work with these fine people up here. And my dad always told me growing up that you get one name, you get one last name. And Dad, I swear to God, I will leave it as good as I got it. I promise you that. I cannot thank my family enough. My wife was so supportive during this whole thing. My mom, my daughter, Lacey's here. My wife, unfortunately, is at a baseball tryouts with my son, or else she would be here. The Jamesons, Linda Rice Chapman, I'm gonna forget people, but I just cannot tell everybody how much I support or appreciate your support, and will support you as well. The one thing I ran on was that I will be available, and I will always have that honest conversation with you, and I swear that that will continue to go forward. We may not always agree, but I promise that we will be able to have that conversation, and I will listen and hear you. I've got some friends in the crowd. Jaren, you're like a brother to me. Thank you for coming. Love you. Sarah, same. I love you as well. I'm just very thankful for this moment, and I'm very thankful for everybody in High Springs, and I'll work hard for everybody, whether you voted for me or not. Thank you.
We all say welcome aboard to you. We're glad to have you.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor.
All right. All right. Item G, citizens' requests and comments for issues that are not on the agenda. Please state your name for the record and limit your comments to 5 minutes, please. Yes.
Hello, do I stand up here?
Yes, come up to the podium, please.
Hello, good evening,
Good evening.
and congrats on your.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Javier, that is Javier, last name Harrington, Harrington. I reside at 20145 Northwest 228th Street. So what brings me here is that we live in that new development, and that's the only section of the development that has no lighting. So I called the city, actually they called Clay Electric, and they were not aware that there was no order for them to place any light posts in the roundabout. So I spoke with a lady here at the City Hall, and she looked into it, and she told me that it was not in the plans to put light posts there. And I would like to know, how was that overlooked for us not to have light posts in our street? That's the only street in the neighborhood that doesn't have any. It's very dark there, and we are taxpayers too. We pay like everyone else does in the neighborhood. So if anyone can give me an answer, it'd be great. Somebody can look into that.
What neighborhood is that in?
That's what I want to know.
That is on the, I forget the name of the subdivision. I can give you it's right across the street from where the church is. The school is right in there.
Okay.
No, Bailey Estates is on the other side.
Okay. We'll look into it. If we can, if you can give the city clerk your phone number, then we'll look into it and see what we can do. I don't know about what was in the plans and what wasn't. That was plotted a while back. But we'll look into it and give
It
you
was
a call.
definitely overlooked, that's what she said. That it was
Okay.
not, there's nothing they can do because it was not in the plan, so you have my address, right? Or how are we gonna do this?
We need your telephone number,
Oh.
and then we can talk to Clay Electric and then give you
Area
a call.
code 352-262-8137. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Okay. Moving right along. Item H, new business. Discuss, consider, and act on appointing chair and vice chair to the CRA board. Yes, indeed.
I move we appoint Tristan Grunder, Commissioner Grunder, as chair of the CRA for the first year.
Second.
Thank you.
All right. Is that all we need on that one? Okay, number 2, discuss, consider, and act on to appointing or reappoint. Oh, yeah. Who want to be the vice chair?
I make a motion, we appoint Commissioner Whites as vice chair.
All right, second.
Second.
All right, Commissioner Weiss, Vice Chair of CRA Board. Okay. Thank you. Now, number 2. Discuss, consider, and reappoint members to various city boards and committees. And we had an attachment here for one of them. Uh-huh. That's the only one we have for this board? Yes. Okay.
And there's an open spot for the new applicant, correct? So they would, okay. So can we just do a blanket motion to approve the reappointments, including the applicant Tremblay to the Parks Board?
One motion.
I make that motion. I appreciate their service and their involvement on the different boards.
Second.
Okay. It's been properly moved and seconded. We have 3 people appointed back to the board. Parks and Recreation Board. Mhm. Okay. That's the only one I see. All right. Item.
So we don't need to vote on that? Yes.
Okay. All those in favor of the appointments made by the motion, please so indicate by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay, appointments carried. Yeah. Okay, item number 3. Discuss, consider, and act on authorizing the following personnel to sign checks and investment documents in compliance with Section 2-97 of the High Springs Code of Ordinance. Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Manager, and City Clerk.
I make a motion, or do we?
Did they have to name names, Jenny?
Yes,
That needs to be in the
names.
motion.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion that our mayor, Gloria James, the vice mayor, myself, Ross Ambrose, Ashley Stefados, clerk, and our new clerk, Angela, be authorized to sign checks.
All those, I'm sorry.
I'm going to second the motion.
Okay, got it.
All right, second.
Okay. All right, now do you want us to go, all those in favor? Mm-hmm. All those in favor with appointing Gloria James as mayor for signature, Ross Ambrose vice mayor for signature, Angela Stefados for city manager, and Angela Stone, city clerk, to sign documents. Please respond with aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. Number 4, discuss, consider, and act on resolution 2022T.
Madam Mayor, I'll go ahead and read this by title only. And, this is Resolution 2022T, the resolution of the City Council of the City of High Springs, Florida, relating to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, FDEP, State Revolving Fund, SRF, adoption of the wastewater facility plan for the implementation of wastewater treatment and disposal improvements, and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass Resolution 2022T as read by title only.
All right, comments, anyone?
Catherine Van Zant with Saltus Engineering is here if anyone has any questions. She provided the presentation on the water and wastewater facilities plan at a previous meeting.
And we also have Tom Bryant by phone. He did the financial parts of the facilities plan, the capital financing plan, along with Mrs. Wilson.
All right, questions, comments, commissioners?
Yes, ma'am, if I may, please.
Yes, you may.
Hi.
Hi there.
I have a request, and I don't mean to be rude by this, but the figures that are in here are difficult for me to see. Is there any way we could get bigger maps? Because I really can't see detail here. I know that this is presented this way so that we can all, so it's not huge, and I don't need anything from a plotter. But it's difficult for me to actually decipher details on these figures.
Yeah, actually, in the PDF for it, they were intended to be printed out as 11 by 17. And we can get 11 by 17 copies for you so that it's not too big for you, but it's
Right.
bigger to be able to read.
There's so much information here, and I feel a profound responsibility for the next 25 years that the five of us up here are making some really big decisions.
Yes, ma'am.
And, the financial aspect to this, I have so many questions. Where are we going to get all the money?
Well, so as the projects come forward, we assess where we're at the time, and we don't move forward with them if the money's not there. So, these plans are based on assumptions, but those assumptions have to happen. So,
I
a certain
understand.
amount of growth or something, the money has to be there before we're going to move forward. So it's just kind of estimates of where we'll be, but if we don't reach those benchmarks, we don't move forward.
Okay. And one of the things that really sticks out at me here profoundly in looking through both of these is if we were going with a growth rate based on historic census data, we would estimate about 47% growth in this city over the next 25 years. But based on population projections, based on known anticipated development, we're looking at 288% growth. And that terrifies me. It really does. I recognize where you're coming from, and I understand the data that you're using, but wow. So I did look through this. I've read through both documents, and I would love to be able to go through town with a pipe map that I could actually look and see. If that's something that we can do.
We can get you whatever you need. We can get the larger maps. We have a plotter, even if you wanted them that large.
I don't want a plotter. I don't need you to
Yeah,
waste
we can
that
do
much
11
money.
by 17.
11 by 17, I think would be good. So, I can't see street names. I can't really determine enough here for my own peace of mind.
I can also, what you might want a big drawing of is I have a kind of the data worked off of. I could send over a 24 by 36, and that has the developments, it has all the information that most of this came out of. So it shows developments, it shows the areas that have septic tanks now, that might be changed, like in different colors so that I could work with it.
Right.
And it's not a problem to print that out in a 24 by 36. I don't have a problem with answering any follow-up questions you have. I don't have a problem with meeting with you or
Okay.
anything else to help with answering your
I
questions.
would really appreciate that. I don't mean to delay, because I know this is important. I do. But I also think this is a huge task. There's some questions I have about prospective water wells. Some of the things that I've read here, we're sinking a third well right now, but then there's talk about maybe moving to a different location. I don't see anything with any figures here with showing me a cone of influence, or, is there a geological, what's the pushing you to maybe move it somewhere else, or?
Well, on that, I understand as far as like a cone of influence or geology, this is just very much a planning document. It's not even like pre-design. It's just to say, okay, over the next 20 years, what might happen? And so the chosen alternative, the least expensive alternative, was to stay with the wells where they're at, the water treatment where they're at, plus putting something over on the west side, because you need to have service with better pressure over there. You can't meet the fire flow pressures needed at the end of the system. So as far as another well, that was in order to provide also some extra redundancy for the town, so that as things happen on the, I got to get east-west in my mind. As things happen where the treatment plant is, now you've still got some service for the far end of town. This wasn't a chosen alternative, but one of the alternatives was looking at the Water Management District Conservation Area, because that's something that's been talked about quite a bit. But in looking at the present worth cost, it saved the city money to stay where you're at and upgrade what you've got there and add storage over there. A critical need that you do have now is more storage. And that's part of the reason that's critical is, and providing for the area at the other end of town is to be able to provide for fire flow needs based on what Florida statutes, and, well, based on the fire code, the International Fire Code and the State Fire Code, for what you should be having.
Yeah, I understand. I appreciate that. I know there was some talk many, many years ago about relocating the well field. You know, if we move west, what's going to be the influence with the tannin and lignans and everything else if we go west, if we go closer to the river? I'm not sure exactly where you're talking about as an alternate location.
And understand that you also have, because lines were built a long time ago here, you have in your older area of town mostly 6-inch lines, and so that also creates constrictions for you as far as being able to get the flow and the pressure that you need over to that side of town.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Mr. Gillingham has been really had a lot of forethought as he's been gotten money to work on areas. He's been taking care of asbestos cement pipe, upgrading the pipes. What we were coming up with in this planning that was needed matched up with things that he was already realizing needed to be done and was doing as it was coming along.
And again, a lot of this is trying to predict the future. This is that plan in place. This is what we need for state revolving fund. This is trying to look at growth projections on where things could go, possibly look at things changing as we have people inquiring upon subdivisions or wanting to add homes, things along those lines. So we don't currently have that plan in place. So what we've been having to do is a lot of this stuff off of historical knowledge. For instance, the Waterline Interconnect project we just finished. That's huge. We don't really know what that potential impact's going to be. We know what modeling looks like. We have ideas of where it's going to go, what it's going to affect, and how it's going to fix that. But until we get some more historical data and that line's up and running, we got hydrant flow testing fixing to start and a lot of things going, we'll have a really good impact. And looking at this idea of maybe putting a well over here, additional storage on this end of town, that could vastly change as well. So again, this is just a plan in place. This is just a benchmark, some guide, some ideas of where we need to go. We know we have issues with AC pipe. We know we have issues with some of the transite. We know that these things need to happen. This is just giving us a roadmap on some of the important areas that we need to look at. So as we start planning out and we start looking at where we're going to go in the directions we're going to head, in the back of our minds with the new impact fees and things like that, I know I got a 6-inch transite line here. We know we want to put XYZ there. Well, these impact fees, because now I need to up that 6-inch line to an 8-inch line or a 10-inch line or a 12-inch line. We could use those fees, and that is in place. And now we have documentation to go back and say, hey, we've already identified that. Or if we need to hit state revolving fund for additional funding at a reduced rate, we can now hit that because the document already exists.
I think a really important point for what you said about growth is that this is key to that, because this provides an overall picture. So as somebody comes in and says, hey, I want to develop these areas, and we know with this, we knew areas that were open and likely to get expanded or developed. So as they come in, you're not saying, well, okay, I don't, maybe, I guess that'll work. Instead, you've looked at the city as a whole, and you know, okay, yeah, but if we go here, that's gonna affect this, this, and this. We've modeled the wastewater, we modeled the water, so, okay, if you go here, then we've gotta check out the lift stations in this area and make sure they're gonna be able to handle it. Or, you know, that's gonna affect the grinder pumps over there. So being able to have the overall plan is a really key part to being able to address the requests for growth that come in.
Based on the water plan here too, there's obviously going to need I mean, if we had this kind of growth, our consumptive use permit's going to have to go. But then I'm looking at the reclaimed water as well and how that impacts that, because our consumptive use permit, our allowable daily limit just went down.
A little bit, yes.
So, you know, is the Water Management District going to keep us constricted there unless we do reclaimed water? Are they going to hamstring us that way?
Well, and some of the feedback we're getting on that too is conservation is their key thing right now. And that's a moving target every year, you know that as well as I do. And right now they're conservation. They want to look at what we're doing landscaping wise. You know, they're really pushing on getting rid of St. Augustine grass and, you know, land development codes, things along those lines, and going more to native vegetation that doesn't require as much watering. Reclaimed water was really big and the sexy thing 5-10 years ago. Now it's starting to be like, hey, we'll do it in public places, but now you're worrying about nitrates and people watering grasses and phosphates, and they kind of bounce all over the place with it. Very similar to this document. This is not a static document. This is going to be a dynamic document that as we grow, as things stay stagnant or things move on, this document, instead of having to reinvent the whole wheel, can get changed, modified, and moved around. And we can pick the things that are important and that have impact on those areas to make those adjustments. And it's in writing, which helps additionally with funding and justifying impact fees and things along those lines as well.
You done?
Yes, ma'am, thank you, I appreciate
All
it.
right, anyone else?
Yeah, Mayor.
All right.
Yeah, Bruce, and if you could just help me, I had a lot of questions about the individual things that are in here, and a lot of it would be up for debate. But what I understood is, we're doing this for what you just said, so that we've got a plan, and right now we can't access state revolving funds. We couldn't take a project and apply because we don't have this piece. So if we were to pay for it, we'd have to go out and get a loan at market rates versus state revolving funds are much less. So this strategically puts us in a position to have more leverage, knowing that growth is coming, to be able to access the best funding sources because we've met the requirement to have a plan.
Absolutely, and it also allows us, when the city manager and planning are negotiating with these subdivisions as they're wanting to come in, we have an identified document saying, hey, this isn't going to work here unless you help us get to this point. So it allows us to put some of the onus back on the developer too, instead of on our taxpayers. So there's a whole methodology that goes with this. It backs up the impact fees, it backs up our growth, it allows us to be responsible with that growth as well, and be responsible with maintaining our system and getting it up and running. I mean, we've all been in these meetings where, oh, we're not doing anything to upgrade infrastructure. We're not doing it's falling apart. And a lot of those statements are not true, and we know that because these are the areas that we've been working on. But now we actually have a document in place that we can go back and say, no, we've identified that. We are working on it. We are all as a collective group trying to enhance and pass on the responsibility to people that are wanting to come in and to go back and fix some of the aging older lines and things along those lines. So it helps us in a lot of ways.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any other comments?
I would just ask if possible, if I could get bigger maps, if it's possible to just bump this. And I don't know if we're supposed to vote on this or not tonight, if we could maybe just push it forward another couple of weeks so that I could look at bigger maps. Is that?
How does that impact the publicizing? Do we have to table it? Because it's been publicized, so would we have to republicize it? Yeah. So I mean, this was something we had to publicize, like a zoning case.
This is
so-
only first reading, correct? Oh, it's
Shall not do it once.
yeah, so,
I don't know, does that,
Yeah.
we might have to republicize, but, I mean, we can do that if we have to, so, and it might have to, I don't want to definitely say that we can do it at the next meeting, because it might end up having to republicize and doing it in January, so.
Would that be a big constraint for us?
Let's see if Tom's on here. Tom, are you there?
Yes, yes.
Do you know about publicizing for the ordinance? If they tabled it, they'd have to do the 2-week.
Well, at this point, I believe you've had 2 public meetings, only one's required. So, you know, you can close the public meeting, and it's been publicized. So at this juncture, it's up to the council if they want to vote to approve the facility plan. And what that does is that acknowledges to SRF that you bought into the facility plan and you agree with it. It doesn't come with any commitments, though. Not until you borrow money are you committed. So if you were to vote tonight to authorize the facility plan, you could even put a qualifier that, you know, that this plan may adjust a little bit, or, you know, it might shift slightly, but, you know, if you voted tonight, that'd be good. If you push it out, that's okay too. I don't think that has to be presented back, you know, publicized. But, and let me say one more thing. This facility plan, it's strictly to tee you up for SRF funding. Now, SRF doesn't really fund growth. You know, growth has to fund itself through impact fees, but they will fund census growth. I've heard one of the council persons say that, and that's true, which I think we programmed in 1 or 2% growth. Now, I know you have potential growth that's large, and but SRF doesn't fund growth per se. So that's funded by rates and impact fees. So this document really tees up what Catherine has identified as critical needs for the existing customer base. And you know, the figure's around $3 million, but the next step would be to, once you get through the planning phase, excuse me, then you'll move into the design phase, and that's where the final numbers get locked down. And so at that juncture, once that's approved and permitted, then you would put this on the street for bid. And at that point, you know what the actual cost is. And then you would execute a loan agreement, but you do have to show pledged revenue. Now, currently, it looks like you can get through the planning phase, no problem with current rates. But once you know, 1 year from now, when the design is complete, once you bid it and have hard numbers, then it looks like you're probably going to have a rate increase to fund the debt service.
What he was talking about there is on your capital financing plan on page 4, and you see where it shows the revenue, and you see it dropping down at the end. That's based on the design and construction. And so what that shows is that you have, just the design itself would be about $16,000 a year on that. The rest of it is for construction added with that. So it shows that you have, with your rates now, based on the information in the capital financing plan that was pulled together with Ms. Wilson, that you have the ability to move forward and do the design of what's shown for the critical water recommendation immediate. But you do not have the ability to pay for the construction of it. That would require rates, something in addition, impact fees coming in.
Okay.
But if we approve this tonight, it's all conceptual. So before we move forward, like the well, we're not saying that since your recommendation was to put a well on the west end, which would be closer to the river, that's what we want you to go out and get an engineering for and come back with a proposal. There would have to be a step in between where we'd really debate whether that was a good idea and we even wanted to pursue that
Yes.
as a commission, where we'd really need the data and the detail that Commissioner White's is looking for.
Yes.
Okay.
This is the conceptual planning for you for the next 20 years. It does give the foundation for the state revolving fund loan so that you can say, we've done the planning, we've approved planning for it. It's not the details of what you'll end up with for the design of what you're going to do. That's still forward. Pre-design, figuring it out, where you're going to put it, more details will go into that with your approval.
So if we approve this, we're not spending any money tonight,
Correct.
and everything's up for change, right? That's what I keep hearing.
Yeah,
And it's just, but without this, we don't qualify.
right. If you approve this, then you have the opportunity, if you want to go forward and request state revolving fund financing for designing the parts of the plan that you want to go ahead and design. It also is a good foundation for you for other funding applications, because you show that the city has looked at, the city as a whole, how we're going to grow, what we need to grow. You've done the groundwork for the city as a whole.
Yeah, so basically, it's just a plan.
Just a
It's not
plan.
etched out in stone saying this is what we must do. In a way down the line that we need to make some adjustments, make some changes, it's still possible to do so.
Yeah, and you can see that with the wastewater, we didn't even say do anything now. A lot of it depends on what happens with development. And so you see, even for the looking at the water, it said, well, you would do this depending on what happens with development, even the reclaimed water part of it. Or actually, as far as on the wastewater, the lift station backup pumping, you all are already doing that. So it's just a plan to say, okay, at the point when we did this, this is the best we knew of what was happening. And so to look at the city as a whole, this is how you would need to be able to prepare for this conceptually.
Gotcha. All right, thank you.
Yeah, so I looked at SRF as bankers, but they're engineers with bankers' hat. And so they technically look to see if what Catherine has presented is sound, and they financially look to see if you can actually pay for this through your rates or some pledge revenue source. And so it's an excellent program. SRF works for you, the community, to make sure that you're doing the right thing, that you don't get under consent order, that you don't take on more projects than you can afford. It's an excellent program to be engaged with. SRF is. Catherine has done an excellent job of identifying short-term needs, long-term needs. And this is a 20-year plan, but when she says she needs additional water storage, for fire protection, you need additional water production. She's given that a lot of thought with your O&M staff, because they're the ones that are out there putting Band-Aids on everything, trying to keep it working, and working all hours of the night during storms, because they're a little short on storage facilities, and maybe they have to crank a generator and so forth. But Catherine's done an excellent job working with your staff to come up with this plan. Now, I know there is concern about growth, but that's not what this plan is about. It's only reasonable growth, which I think Catherine is 1 or 2%, as I recall, which was based on census and Beaver. So it's, and yes, you guys are right. There's not a commitment until you borrow the money. At that point, you're committed. So this is just you are agreeing with the concept of what Catherine's presented as to what you need, how much it costs, and how you repay the debt. And it's just one more thing to think about. Interest rates are going up. They were a year ago, they were at 0.5%. Now I think they're at 1%. Bonds can be, 4, 5, 6, 7%. But that makes a large difference with the debt service. So it's good that you position yourself to work with SRF on any funding needs to fix, needed repairs.
Another thing that you've put into place already was your asset management plan. That's also part of what's a foundation that's needed for the SRF funding, and you all have already done that.
Madam Mayor, if I may. I guess what concerns me, being who I am, we haven't paid off our debt service for the original wastewater treatment plant yet. And in terms of water and pipes, I realize that's a completely different issue, and it's very, very important. And I think we need to focus on what's here right now for the people that are here, and definitely need to figure out how to make that better. But, in the year that I've been sitting up here, we've already borrowed over $3 million. And the thought of borrowing more, incurring more debt for every citizen, is just not something that I am in favor of doing. But I understand we need to improve the infrastructure. And I did take a lot of time to look at these plans, and I do appreciate all the effort you put in. I know you did. But for me, I guess this is just me. I would just feel better being able to look at figures where I can use a scale and I can look at it and I can walk around and see what it is I'm looking at. Because I do feel like we're doing something really important here for people who, we're not going to be sitting here when they're having to do a lot of this work. So I feel profound responsibility to do the best job we can. And I understand it's just a plan, it's not committing to anything, but for me, I would really appreciate it if I could see some bigger figures.
I'll definitely get that to you.
Thank you.
And kudos to you as a commission and to your city manager, because this is something that most cities do not do, especially cities your size, do not do this kind of planning. And they end up you said your concerns about debt, they end up getting to a point where they have to get emergency debt because they haven't planned for this, things have happened, they've just put in what they knew to put in, and then there's a big problem. So you all are being forward-thinking and even going through this process.
Can I ask one other question? In the wastewater plan, in terms of biosolids, it said there were 3 different options: land applied, transported to a composting facility, or landfilled. Are we land applying any of our biosolids? Do you know?
We weren't really addressing what, well, I'll let Bruce answer that. That's for what you're doing right now.
Right.
We're not, we dewater and then haul off the sludge. So we're
Right.
not doing any application ourselves. What they do with it from that point, we don't know. I don't know exactly what they're doing with it once
Really?
it leaves our plant. So GRU was getting it. I think Watson's got it now. I'm sure.
That's
they're
what we
land-
have in here, Watson.
I'm sure they're land applying. Last I heard they were, but I can't tell you what they're doing today.
No localized land application, though?
Nothing here.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I believe it's actually going into a compost facility they have running.
It's changed a couple times.
All right, commissioners. What's your pledge?
I make a motion, we approve Resolution 2022T with the caveat that Commissioner Whites gets the larger drawing with all that information. And actually for city staff, I'd also say on a lot of these things, I agree. I can't read the small print. And so I go through a lot of work to figure out and find it, but it would be helpful if some things were blown up.
We will blow things up. Blow it up.
Responsibly, I hope.
Says the police officer.
Just make it larger. Second to the motion.
Okay, it's been properly, there's a motion that Resolution 2022-T be approved. We're gonna do roll comments in a minute. Want to do public comments first? Anybody from the public comments? I see no one.
Mayor James,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ambrose,
Yes.
Commissioner Grunder,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Williams,
Yes.
Okay. Motion carries.
I'll get 11 by 17 copies over for each of you to be able to have.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, item number 5, Resolution 2022-U.
Yes.
I don't see it neither.
Number 5.
Madam Mayor, this is Resolution 2022U relating to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, FDEP State Revolving Fund, adopting the drinking water facility plan for the implementation of drinking water production, storage, and distribution improvements. The appropriate motion is to pass Resolution 2022U as read by title only.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioners? No? No.
And this is the same thing, but for wastewater.
Yes, yeah,
so,
exactly.
And it made for exciting reading. After having read the first part of the packet, reading the second part of the
Second part
packet, which
is-
is about this thick, it was quite the afternoon during the storm
Yeah,
that we didn't have.
okay, motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve 2022-U with the understanding we'll get some larger drawings if needed.
Second.
Okay, it's been, okay. The motion has been made that Resolution 2022-U be approved. Are there comments from the audience? Okay, I see no one.
Vice Mayor Ambrose,
Yes.
Commissioner Grunder,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Williams,
Yes.
Mayor James.
Yes. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you for your work on both those.
Item number 6.
Madam Mayor, this is ordinance 2022-22, an ordinance amending the adopted fiscal year 2022 budget of the city of High Springs, providing effective date, providing for conflict. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2022-22 upon its reading by title only.
Good evening, Diane Wilson, Finance Director. I'll be very brief. We only have a couple of amendments to the budget. One item was just an oversight on budgeting the expense for the transfer to the CRA from the general fund for the TIF property tax, the portion that goes to that area. And that is the $96,335 that you see in the middle column. And then on the second page, it is all of the ARPA funds. We had not budgeted specifically in the 22 budget for ARPA. We hadn't received any revenue yet, and we hadn't determined what projects were going to be done. So this is just moving all of the projects that we did complete during 22 and the money that we received in 22 over to the 22 budget. The rest of the budget is remaining as is for 2022. And that's it.
Commissioners?
Yes, ma'am. I have a question, please, about the ARPA funds. We were going to get an updated spreadsheet on what's been spent and what hasn't.
I've been out.
Yeah,
I
you
haven't
have,
had a chance
haven't
to do
you?
it, so I'll get it to you. It's on my list to get
I mean,
finished
it's
up.
showing here about $750,000 have been spent, but we've pretty much spent all of it, haven't
We
we?
spent the first half, but that was allocated to projects.
Okay,
But this is what was spent in 2022 in that budget.
Okay.
So that's why it's reflecting here.
okay.
The other part will be reflected in this year's budget.
Okay, so we will need to amend it again when we've updated that. It'll just become part of the next year's budget.
It will just, right, it'll just roll.
Okay,
Whatever is not spent will roll into the next.
Okay, thank you.
into the next fiscal year.
All right, any other commissioner? Okay, in order,
I'll I'll make a motion, we approve ordinance 2022, amending the fiscal year 21-22 budget.
Second.
Okay, it is properly moved and second that ordinance 2022, that's 22, gotta get these twos in there, be approved. Any audience comments?
That's what's left over after those expenses in '22, yes. And that will roll forward into the '23 budget.
Absolutely. Roll call, Ms. Palmer.
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Williams,
Yes.
Mayor James,
Yes,
Vice Mayor Ambrose.
Yes.
motion carries 5-0. Item number 7. This-
Madam Mayor, this is Resolution 2022S, authorizing the lease purchase agreement to be entered into with Leasing 2, Inc. for the acquisition of a Mower Max mower. Appropriate motion is to pass Resolution 2022S as read by title only.
Thank you.
Jenny, do you mind going to the next presentation? Oh, do you not have it? It's okay, that's fine. This is a short and sweet one as well. During the budget, we talked about the mower, and I know that you've all spoken with Thomas Henry in Public Works about it. And Commissioner Grunder, I believe Bruce and Ashley brought you up to speed on it as well.
Yes, ma'am.
So we want to enter into a lease purchase agreement. It's a 5-year agreement. The payments are about $64,000 a year, and that's included in our budget for '23. We've already planned that. It's the same agreement that you saw about a year ago in October of '21 for the heavy-duty rescue and the pumper truck. The equipment has a life of 10 to 15 years, depending on how you take care of it and how you use it, of course. So it will be well longer than that 5-year term. At the end of the 5 years, we own it outright. So it's not your typical, it's not just a lease, it's a lease to own, so to speak. So the last payment is July of 2027, and it's going to be funded through the sewer fund, and that's where it was budgeted in '23 for this year's payment. And that's it. I even had a little picture in case you hadn't been updated, so you could see what a Mower Max was, because I didn't want you to be like, what is she talking about?
All right, comment, commissioners?
Yeah. Bruce, didn't we rent a similar device for like a month earlier on in the year, or last year?
Yeah, we've been renting something very similar for the last couple of years.
And that costs like what, $25,000-$30,000 a month?
I think it's, for 28 days, it's like $30,000.
Okay, so for an annual fee of approximately $60,000, we own it for
And
10, 15 years.
This year, well, the end of this calendar year, or the beginning of this calendar year, we rented it, I believe, for 2 months between Parks and Recs and Public Works. I think it was right at 48 or 60,000, somewhere in there. But we've been renting one. That's what we've been using to clean up the sides of the roads. And this will also, the reason we're looking at it coming out of sewer is the fact that we'll need it to mow the wetlands as well. So it'll be utilizing that application as well.
Okay, I appreciate you bringing this back to us instead of us, renting when we didn't, yeah.
Yes, indeed, absolutely.
To me, it's good debt. We get something for it.
Commissioners, anyone else?
Yes, ma'am. What other applications are we going to be using this for? Will it just be for the wetlands, or any easement mowing that we do?
For easement mowing, ditches, some areas in parks, things like that.
And is it
Tree lines.
replacing existing?
No, we currently do not have.
So
easement
that's why we've been renting?
Correct.
Okay.
Anyone else? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. We approve 2022S.
Second.
All right. Motion has been made and second that resolution 2022-S be approved. Audience comments.
No, you're fine.
I'm Rick Testa. A few months ago, we had some of the people that live along the longer roads in High Springs and have easements. There was when the new Public Works Director came on board, I talked to the individual because the roads weren't being maintained. The grass, the debris and stuff got about 3 or 4 foot high before it was attended to. My understanding was a couple of years ago, maybe 3, 4 years ago, the city bought a bunch of gravelly zero-turn lawnmowers, and they were cutting these easements on a 6-week schedule for about a year, 2 years maybe. So the Public Works Director that I spoke to a few months ago, I went through the chain of command very calmly and patiently, explained to me that there was something in a code in the city that said that the people that own homes on these easements are responsible for cutting those easements, maintaining that grass if there's a home on the property. The director mentioned the city manager, Mrs. Mayor, he also mentioned that he had spoken to you about this and there was some concern whether you were going to maintain those right-of-ways or not. After I spoke to the director, like I said, I started with the staff people in Public Works, got a conference call with the director, and eventually, because there didn't seem to be a resolution, the vice manager over here I contacted him, and he within a week, the roads were maintained. So thank you for that. The problem I have is I've been here 22 years in a home, over that length of time to own the property, and this has been a ping pong ball for about 25 years. Sometimes the city maintains it, sometimes the city doesn't. But it was my understanding under the last city manager, Mr. Booth, that the reason those zero-turn gravelly were purchased was for that particular reason, that we were on a 6-week schedule, the city, for maintaining the roadways. The homeowners weren't responsible for cutting the city's property, and I think that may have changed, or there may have been some discussion. Could I get clarification on that?
Do you want to answer it, or do you want me to? I actually need to go back and check into that. I need to check back into it and look at code, quite honestly. Okay. So I don't want to make a decision on it right now in the meeting without going and reading code, and then just having further discussion about what the needs of the city are and that sort of thing.
Okay, I'm just, like I said in the beginning, I'm going through the chain of command.
Right.
It's been over 2 or 3 months, and Mr. Gillingham here took care of it very quickly initially, but now this new mower and the zero-turn mowers, I'm thinking we have all this machinery, but unless we're on a schedule and the citizens know that, are we cutting our grass? Is the city cutting our grass? When are they cutting it? Every 6 months, every 3? So I'd like to get some kind of information.
I understand. I just want to go back and read it.
Yes, ma'am.
So.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So do we not own these ZTR Graveleys anymore?
Yeah, we still have the Graveleys.
Okay.
There was some realignments, new positions added, people moved on, some different things, and we were mowing some areas we shouldn't have been mowing that were either HOA, supposed to be HOA maintained right-of-ways, and some areas that should have been mowed, and trying to get maps straight and some areas missed, and most of it's been addressed at this point, but we're still trying to fine-tune everything and get it straight, because what we had a mowing contract, we had contractors going in, there was areas that were identified being mowed that some of them probably shouldn't have, some of them were being missed, and we're just trying to clean it up. So I think we got most of them now, but again, there is some stuff in code that is being fine-tuned as well, and we're just making sure.
And we're going back and looking at a lot of code too, and as you know, some of code is changing. I think what we would like to have, if we don't already have it, or we need to fine-tune, is a map that shows what we're mowing and what we're not. And
actually, Christy, myself,
Okay.
Thomas have been working on what's ours, what's HOA, and what's actually county property. So that's been a work in progress for the last little while, and we're hoping to have it fine-tuned here in the next little bit, so we'll have some better direction.
Okay. Thank you for looking into that. And Ms. Palm?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. At this point, we're ready for city attorney report and update.
Madam Mayor, I want to put out an invitation for you all and any staff that wants to attend or any of the boards for the December 14th ethics presentation. You have to, as commissioners, you have to have 4 hours of ethics training. This presentation that we do in our office every year matches that up, so you don't have to take any other training. And if you can let Jenny or Angela know, so we know how many snacks to order for you. And we'll look forward to an evening. We start at 4 o'clock on the 14th. All the cities that we represent are invited to attend. And so hopefully we'll have a comfortable chair for you, and it'll be somewhat, I hope, entertaining, even though it can be a little bit of a dry presentation. Danielle is watching this while she's up in DC, and she'll be presenting along with Kirsten, and I think she's got an invitation out to Andrea to come make a return engagement presentation, so hopefully Andrea will be there that evening as well. And Madam Mayor, I did want to let you know that I promised when I hired Danielle that she would be able to take a ride in the Mower Max. So I want to follow up with that, Bruce, and make sure that you get that done. It was interesting to research that piece of equipment.
I have to get with legal on liability, but we'll make that happen.
We'll make sure all the waivers are signed up and all that sort of thing. And I'm very pleased your planning and zoning board being reappointed. You have a very talented board, and a couple of members are in the back. Donald runs a very good meeting, and I get to see a lot of planning and zoning board meetings in my position, and you have a particularly talented one, and they do hard work, and they move things along and make it. They don't always agree, but they are never disagreeable. So they do a good job for you. I'm real pleased to see Donald's in for another run. So that's all I had, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. City Manager.
I just wanted to mention that we received a grant from Duke Energy to resurface the basketball courts at Walter Howard Park. So Damon worked with me on that, and $20,000. Every little bit helps, so we were really happy to receive that. Also, the police department is accepting donations, gift cards, unwrapped gifts for the holiday season now. So you can take things by there. And I think Angela is collecting things for that. She's the one to contact, and there's a mailbox outside the police department to put things in as well. The Christmas tree lighting is December 3rd, and the Christmas parade is December 10th.
Yes, sir.
Couple things. Lift station repair for the main lift that we've been waiting on. We're still waiting on a valve to come in. Hopefully in the next couple, we're being told all the parts will be here by the end of the month. They have a ship date on it. So hoping to start about the first or second week of December on that project. Elevator everything's good to go on it. We're looking like December for a start date. I'm waiting on an actual hard date to tell you if we got to move December's meeting over to the Civic Center or not. That Walter Howard grant that the city manager mentioned will be starting in the next 2 to 3 weeks on the resurfacing of those basketball courts. Fall sports are wrapping up in Parks and Recs. There's a lot of good things going on. The well is in. The casing's in. It's good to go. Waiting on SGS to start setting the wellhead itself, and then we should be pulling samples, and it should be online sometime after the first of the year. As far as the ARPA projects go, we're waiting on the bids to come in for the generators. We're working on that now and a couple other things for these lift stations, but it's moving along.
All right, thank you. We'll go to commission comments, and we'll give Mr. Brunner his opportunity to assess his first meeting.
No, just happy to be here.
Ms. Weiss.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I would highly recommend that you avail yourself of city staff. We have some amazing folks. We can't help you, but they can, and our Public Works Director, aside from his obvious character flaw of being a Miami Hurricanes fan, is a fabulous guy. But all of our department heads have been amazing resources to me. Christy back there in the back, she's amazing. She can answer anything, and she likes dogs. So, Chief Shepherd, I want to thank you for letting your officer have time off to make the trip with us to Indianapolis. Rest assured that he was not working for you, but he worked his butt off the whole time he was there. So it made all of us parents and all of the kids feel so much better having him with us, so I really appreciate that. And I want to wish you all a blessed Thanksgiving and let you know that I'm thankful to be here, too. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Williams.
Yes, ma'am. Again, we'll say welcome, Commissioner Granda. Thank you for your service. Question is for Bruce, I guess. What's going on with that front door? The automatic front door. I'm so.
We're trying to find. We can't get parts for that thing up
You
there.
know, that's what I kind of figured, because it's been there for.
So we're working on the game plan.
Okay.
I don't have an answer for you on that. I know Thomas was working on it while I was gone, trying to get some stuff rolling, but I don't have an update on it at this point. I'll get you one.
Yeah, I kind of figured that's what it was, trying to find parts for. It's quite a.
It's fairly new, so I mean, it's only 15 years old, so.
What can we say? Same thing with the other one out there, the Civic Center, Damon. I get so many complaints out there because that the stove. So what's going on with that? Is it we're gonna order a new one or? Okay.
A lot of moving parts.
Okay. Yeah, 'cause I almost got my head snatched off the other day. Our last question is, because people been asking me, Bruce, Ashley, all this wire pulling they're doing around town. What in the world is going on?
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It should be Cox Communication. Setting all their fiber and internet in the ground, getting ready to go.
So in some parts of town, I see them going.
Yeah, they gotta go aerial in some spots, and then there's other spots that are going underground. So there was some permitting done through DOT that they're going overhead, that there's poles, and there'll be other areas that are gonna be underground, like all of 441's underground.
Okay.
Some areas like over by Bailey that are underground, but then there's areas coming through the core part of town that are gonna be overhead. So that's a lot of what that's going on. They say they're gonna have the first customer hooked up by December 1st. I say they need to get but they're plugging along pretty good with that.
Okay.
So that's what all that construction is. Windstream's doing some minor stuff too, but a lot of that is Cox Communication you're seeing come through.
Okay, good. So that's going to be telephone, internet.
Cable TV.
Oh, that's been a long time coming.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to say too much because Windscreen might be listening.
Maybe we won't wait 10 weeks for a ticket.
Okay, again, I want to say pray that everyone have a blessed Thanksgiving and enjoy yourself. That's all I have now.
When Cox came in and did their initial presentation to us, they did say that they were going to have it up and running by the end of the year. So, I don't know.
They're moving pretty quick. There was some hang-ups with DOT, and there was a couple hang-ups with the county through some right-of-way, and then they had to finish up some permitting with Duke, but they're pretty much on schedule. They've been moving pretty good, so they're doing a lot of the tie-ins, a lot of the underground stuff's in, so now it's just a matter of getting it to houses.
Very good. All right. Vice Mayor?
Nothing major whatsoever. I see we're doing landscaping downtown. That's exciting to see that process. And I hope everybody has a safe Thanksgiving if they're traveling.
That's it. Well, I want everybody to have a very good Thanksgiving, too. I don't want you to eat too much turkey because I don't want you to get sick, but I want you to enjoy your Thanksgiving. All right?
If you can afford them turkeys these year.
Well, some of them are not bad. They're 99 cents a pound. Butter bowl.
Where?
At Winn-Dixie.
49 cents a pound at Publix right now. 49 cents a pound at
But they're
Publix.
not butter bowl.
No, that's true.
All All right, Christian Brunner, again, welcome aboard. We're glad to have you.
Thank you
And we
so
know you're
much.
gonna be an asset to this board.
Thank you so much.
All right. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved.